What's going on, you guys? Welcome to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Kepple. If you're looking to create more in your life, and if you want more of anything, it's not about doing more, it's about being more. So I'm excited you're here, and I'll see you guys on the inside. What's the weather like in Kiev currently?
Yeah. You know, it's sunny with a chance of bombs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, I'm so cheesy. But yeah, no, it's been lovely. I think it's a lot easier to handle than the weather in Texas right now.
Yeah, I mean, everything's relative, right? Like, we don't have potential for air raids and bombs. I guess we always have that potential, but it's not a high probability here. Like it might be there.
Yeah.
How long have you been back in Ukraine?
I've been here since the beginning of May, and May was a pretty crazy month. We were getting a lot of missiles and drones, and I was sleeping maybe 1 or 2 hours a night, every single night for a month. So all of us were just zombies. But yeah that was a brutal month. But now we're kind of all, it's down in Odessa with the grain deal they've just withdrawn from. So Kyiv isn't getting it quite as much as it was back then. So
Kyiv.
Yeah, Kyiv. They call it Kyiv here, but it's Kiev in North America. So
in Texas.
Yeah. And in Vancouver too. I know. I was like, I'm saying it wrong. So no problems. Yeah.
You've got a great just way of being present to joy and love, even in, pretty extreme circumstance. And I was just curious what types of things you do to calm down that parasympathetic nervous system and just stay, really aligned like that.
Great question. It's something I've been struggling with, especially in a war zone. There are so many different emotions that are just in the air. Yeah, there's some topics here that are really poignant for people that you can't even really talk about it. For example, guilt. Like, you cannot talk about guilt because everybody here feels so immensely guilty, like they're not doing enough, they should be doing more. We have people that are working in a humanitarian organization with me the whole day, and then on the weekend they go and volunteer for another local one. No one feels like they have the right to have joy, and you feel that even just coming in. You feel that in the air. You feel the fear, you feel the hurt, that someone's just like trying to kill you all the time. It really sucks. And so I was noticing actually that I was kind of getting in this negative spiral of going, down and down, and just becoming more cynical, and also with the lack of sleep, because there's so many air alarms, at least once a day. If there isn't at night, there was one night where there wasn't one, and I woke up and was like, oh my goodness, I missed the air alarm, and these air alarms can last from 20 minutes to 3 hours, and you have to go into the bomb shelter, or you're supposed to. And then the bomb shelter in my place is just the underground parking lot. So it's not really fun place to hang out for long times. And so your mental capacity just really suffers as well, along with everyone else's emotions and just being in this atmosphere. And so, I was getting really cynical and really just negative, and like, what can I do? Who am I? What's the point? Should I even bother? Or there's so much to do. This is so little. So the thing, and it sounds so nerdy, but I am nerdy, is I actually asked 2 different friends. I don't think they know that I've asked another person, but I've got one friend that I text in the morning, and she's my gratitude buddy. And so I text her 5 things that I'm grateful for that morning. And I try and always do different things, because it's the whole process of trying to think of things that you're grateful for that can really improve your mood. So I'll text her in the morning, and she texts me back. And then it's also really lovely to hear what she's grateful for. And then I have another buddy in the evening. And so I text her in the evening, and she texts me back. And that's really made such a difference. So, yeah.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, for one, you're getting gratitude, right? Which is just an intentional focus on love. And the more we focus, the more we create, which is awesome, of course. It also helps probably be present, but that connection, like, it feels so good to just connect with other humans like that. like that's definitely wired in our DNA, because that's how we've evolved as humans, is through connection and collaboration. And
You're so
you do
right.
so go deeper on that for me.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. And that's what I've kind of been coming to the conclusion of here of, it's not just the programs I'm creating or the local organizations that I'm supporting to help people with their mental health or help people that have been violated and tortured during the war. It's not just those little things. It's actually creating the connections with people I'm interacting with and trying to be just a little spark of joy, perhaps, you know? And that's why even me doing that gratitude thing is so important, because if I contribute to the negative thing, I think that's what I was making me even more negative, because then am I even help? Like, yeah, am I even being of service here, right? If I'm just adding more negativity to the place. But yeah, when you can connect and bring that joy, I think that is the part of my work that never gets discussed or really thought about, I think, but is as important, you know?
Absolutely. And I think it's so vital, just well-being for every individual on the planet, no matter where you're at. If you're just in a quote unquote normal neighborhood, right? Like, I live by a lake that's like 10 miles around, and a lot of people like bike and ride, ride bikes around and run around it. And I've lived over here for about 10 years, aside from a couple of years when I was in Chicago. And there's a guy, I call him the good morning guy, because he like rides his bike, and I've seen him for about 10 years. And every single person that goes by gets a morning. It's like, morning. And if there's 5 people, it's like, morning, 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 morning. And like, I mean, he's like, and if it doesn't matter how far away you are, if he can see you, you're getting one, right? And like, and then like, I started like looking forward to this guy. I'm like, man, where's the good morning guy? And then I saw him one day, and this guy had a good morning shirt on, and the guy's like, hey, good morning. And like, they started talking, and I guess they're doing like a documentary about him. And I've never captured him one-on-one, but I really want to know why he's so intentional about that. I mean, I think I know why, because it feels great and it helps other people, but how he got started on that, I'm just curious where that came from. And I know like one day I was running around the lake, and it's 10 miles, so it was a long run, right? Like, and I was out there for a long time. I'm not that fast. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to say good morning to everybody today, and just like a little experiment, instead of being in my head on my headphones, and to see how I feel when I'm done. And like, I know how I feel right now. How do I feel when I'm done? Because I'll be tired, right? But about 30% maybe responded. The rest either didn't hear me or acted like they didn't, right? Which is fine, right? They're probably surprised, like, why is this dude screaming at me? And like, but I felt really good. I mean, I even feel good thinking about it, and it's just like, that's just connection. And it's just, I see you, you're a human, I'm a human. Like, we're doing this human thing together, whatever it is. And like, that just instantly makes me feel more safe, which is good, because if I feel safe, I'm more likely to go into the unknown and create something new, whether it's a relationship or, a cool project or whatever.
No,
So
that's exactly why I do this work. It's not because I think I'm more clever and can create the best programs or whatever, but it's because I want to witness and be there for people that are really struggling, and some of the people that are struggling the most in the world. And it's so beautiful. And I've seen thousands, millions of times over just how seeing someone saying good morning, right? Like just witnessing them, that alone is more powerful than, so many more expensive ways of trying to make yourself happy, right?
and destructive potentially.
Yes.
But that's so powerful. And it's like, man, it's such a beautiful thing to do with your time, is to help other people just even feel better for a moment, because man, who knows what they're going through, and the people who are coming out the most sideways, whether they're yelling at you driving down the road or whatever, it's like they're struggling the most. Like, I was just listening to Jack Cornfield on Tim Ferriss's podcast this morning, and he's like, really beautiful guy, and he's just talking about like the way that, not, I think I'd heard him talk about this before, somebody else, but he's like, if somebody like triggers me in any way, I just picture them as like a 3-year-old, and when they're in that place of joy and authenticity and love, and like, what, they're doing the best they can, and that's okay. Like, whatever that is, I'm not here to judge.
Totally. I was taking a cab the other day, and I got in and I was like, Dzień dobry, which is like good day. And he didn't say anything, and he was just super grouchy. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he started talking to me in Ukrainian, and I can't speak Ukrainian. So he found that out quite quickly. But then he was like just saying certain words. And then all of a sudden he was like, my parents are in this place. And I was like, oh, where's that place? And that place is the part of the Ukraine that's still occupied by Russia. And you could just feel he was so angry, but then you could feel the sadness and the sorrow and the stress, right? And if I had not talked to him or engaged with him, I would have just thought he was a jerk, you know?
Sure.
But that was on
you
his
gave him a
mind.
release. What a cool thing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that energy's inside of him like a bullet ricocheting around, just destroying.
It's so tough here. It's so tough here. People are really, they don't like asking for help. They feel like their struggles are so much less than someone else's, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's also why it's powerful to be able to have me, because I don't have family that are struggling. So they can tell me their struggles and don't have to worry that I have worse ones, you know?
Right.
And it's such a unproductive way of thinking of things, of comparing. And I think we in North America do that all the time of like, oh, how can I complain about this when people have it so much worse? And I really just think sorrow is sorrow is sorrow, and stress is stress is stress. And we have to learn, like, how can we have this healthy relationship with our emotions so that we can connect with people, because that is what makes the world go round, you know?
Yeah. Well, that word comparison, I mean,
Oh,
it's like there's so many different ways to play that game, and there's zero ways to win that game. You know, Teddy
exactly.
Roosevelt said it years ago, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Because either there's one or two things that happen. I feel inferior or superior, and there's total disconnect.
Yeah.
Or we compare ourselves to like who we should be, right? I should be this or shouldn't be this. And like joy, if joy is love expressed, which I believe it is, right? Like I rob myself of love every time I compare myself. And so if I'm taking away the opportunity for love, the only other option is fear, whether that comes out as anger or guilt or pride or whatever. It's all fear based. It's like, man, I don't want to get as much love as I possibly can, because I mean, like, God is love, right? Therefore I am love. And so when I'm being love, I'm being my truth. And it's not like woo woo. It's like so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean easy, of course. And so in an effort to stay aligned with our truth, AKA love, right? You know, we have to let go of a lot of stuff. And I would imagine, like, you know, you're, based on our previous conversation, just watching you and knowing you, you're highly empathetic, and like you can really feel what others are feeling, and like your energy is very infectious too, which is trait of empathy, right? You can feel deeply, but also we can feel deeply when we're around you. And like I felt it when we first got on the call today. You're just like bright and warm, and like it's great, and I can feel the heaviness behind it too. And my question is, like, how do you protect, you know, your truth and let go of all this other energy that you take on?
Oh, I love this question. First, okay, I'm going to remember this question, but I do want to thank you for actually, yeah, you totally nailed it. It's the comparison, because I was like, how can I help them deal that? So thank you for that insight. I needed
My pleasure.
that. Okay. So how do I protect myself? Right? This is,
And let go of the stuff that's not yours. You don't own other people's energy and emotion that just isn't
oh,
conducive to what you want.
yeah. Okay. I mean, so I think we talked about in my last podcast where one of my first deployments was the Haiti earthquake, where 300,000 people died in a matter of days, which is really astronomical.
That's
It's
unbelievable, that number.
crazy. It
I
was
mean,
crazy. Yeah.
that's like 3 massive stadiums full of people. Holy cow.
300,000. Yeah. And that's an underestimate, they think, you know, like that's
Wow.
yeah. So I got PTSD from that. And that, again, that was one of my first deployments. So it kind of, I learned the hard way of how do you hold space for people without taking on their emotions. And I think there's a few different things you need to do. First, you have to go into that dark place yourself. You have to travel and see those parts of yourself that you don't like, or sit beside those painful parts. And when you can do that, there's a peace or a relaxation around it. And so if other people then have that depth or those types of emotions, it's not scary for you because you've already been there. You've sat with that part, right? So yeah, I think doing your own work and loving those, like, I have evil, dark places of parts of me. And my last 3 years, kind of my last existential crisis, was really like, how do I delve into the universe that is my soul and find these places and sit beside them and love them, not to change them because they really don't like that, but just to see them and acknowledge them and be with them. And oftentimes that will alchemize it and bring them home, and they will empower you. And through that process, you're then able to do that with other people. And I don't think,
Yeah.
if you can't sit with your own sorrow, I don't think you can really sit with other people's sorrow,
Yeah. But I think that was such a great explanation. It's like, I can't repress it because I'm just giving it more energy, right? But then
Yeah.
I like can't see it, and then I'm really confused. And repress, suppress, whatever you want to say. It's like I just want to like have the courage, right? To which is action in spite of fear, right? To move through it, not necessarily that it goes away, but just so I can get a different perspective of it. Like, what does this fear look like from the other side or from the inside? And it's like our mind wants to serve us, but it gets flawed in its thinking, right? And it's very linear. And so when I question the stories of the mind like that and give it new perspectives, it changes on its own to serve me. And it's not like it's bad or I don't need to judge myself, because anytime we judge, like that's immediate stop for understanding, because that becomes the judgment becomes like the law that we live by from that time on until we make a new decision. And like, I'm not here to judge myself or anybody else. And, like, sounds like such a minor thing when the things you're talking about, but I was telling you, I'm training for this race in Dallas and it's super hot right now. And like, I was in this like long run the other day, and I was in this nature preserve. It's really still in there. There's no wind. I was like sweating. It was so hard. And I think I started crying a little bit. I don't know. I was sweating so bad I couldn't tell. And I was like, how am I going to do this? This is so hard. I was like, take it easy, man. Like, you're going to do it just like, step by step. And you know what? Like, quit resisting it and just like accept that you're nervous. It's okay. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to have feelings. You're a human. And like, that took a lot of the teeth away, and it was still hard for sure. But like, like I wasn't like crying under the blankets anymore, at least. Right. So
Totally. No, I love it. I was literally just working with a client, and we created these 3 steps, and they need to be done in order. And step 1 is really delve into what it is that you don't like, So if there's uncomfortableness, if there's something that you really don't want to do, if there's something you don't like about yourself, you have to really take time to sit with that and feel it and delve into it. And what are the different emotions that are underneath that? And once you really see it and develop it, only then can you go to step 2. And step 2 is using that information of what you don't like to create the opposite of what you do like, So, for example, you don't like, well, what was it that you didn't like when you were running?
that I felt like I couldn't do it.
So the
Like I wasn't
powerlessness.
enough, so to speak. Right. Yeah.
Okay, not being enough. Exactly. So that's beautiful to just sit with that. It takes the teeth out, exactly what you said, right? And then you can think about, okay, no, I want to feel powerful. I am enough. But only after you do step 1, right? Then you can do step 2 of I am powerful. And then step 3 is like, okay, what can I do to really bring this into reality? I'm going to keep on going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
I love it.
I feel like that's what I did, because I kind of let myself feel it. I was like, all right, dude,
You did?
quit resisting it. Let's just feel this feeling. And that's why I think I cried a little bit. So I was like, like inner little Kevin was like, this is hard.
This
like,
sucks.
dude, it is hard. It's really hot. I'm hungry and I'm tired. And like, I'm actually paying money to do this for some reason, and then like you kind of laugh at yourself, I feel like, and it's like, man, it's not that big of a deal. I mean,
I don't know. To be honest, I wouldn't do that. I think it's a big deal. I think that's like, no, there's no way.
yeah.
But,
Well, we'll see when I'm done. But whatever done looks like. Yeah, if you guys need me Saturday night, I'll be in the middle of the woods in the dark eating white bread and honey sandwiches.
You need those quick carbs, man.
Yeah. Well, and like a million goo thing packets in Tailwind. So, well, talk a little bit about the types of people you love to work with, because you mentioned your work a couple of times, and if anybody's listening and really resonates with you, I want them to get the opportunity to get served by you, because you do some life-changing stuff, and just, you're very powerful, and just have a beautiful way of expressing your truth. And I think it's so beneficial that people get access to someone like you.
Oh, well, thank you. I have a wait list, so it's hard to work with me one-on-one just because, yeah, it's
Everybody wants a shot at the title, right? So.
yeah, it's about 3 months, so it's not so bad. But definitely, I wrote a book with all of my life's work really in that. Have a website, make as
Drop the
many.
book's name for me.
Yeah, the good thing about Mortar Shells, choosing love over
And
fear.
it's really good. It's really powerful too. I think like my favorite part off the top of my head was definitely the part about intuition, because you gave such a good idea of what it is, how to use it more powerfully. And it was, man, I've read a lot about that, and I don't know that I've ever seen it explained that simply, and that effective of strategies of how to access it. Because, you know, a lot of people are like, I don't have an intuition. I'm like, well, just because you don't listen to it doesn't mean you don't have one. But
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And I
yeah,
think intuition's just the core, because part of my whole thing is you have the answer, and teaching people to find the answers within themselves. Right. And it's so easy, and it's so lovely when other people can solve things for us, but it's much more sustainable if we can learn how to do that ourselves, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And that's like one of like the really keys that are working with people a lot. It's like, dude, we have to unlock your genius, right? And, you know, genius isn't because you're special. Like, everybody has their version of genius. Genius is more about just being in the habit of creating from your genius, as opposed to reacting from the past pain patterns. And your genius is your strengths stacked on top of each other, and some form of creation. And I can't tell you how to be you, right? Like, only you can do that. And it's so beautiful because, like, when you're truly authentic and owning your genius and living from your truth, like, nobody can ever beat you at being you. Like,
Yeah.
you're the only one. So there's no wrong way to do it,
Yeah.
except, you know, comparing yourself to other people and trying to be like them, right?
And
Like,
yet
that's how you lose.
I think it's one of people's biggest fears is to really look at themselves, because they're scared of what are they going to find, and what happens if they find something they don't like, or how do you react to that, you know? Like, I think all of life is really geared, like TV shows and brunch, it's all geared towards avoiding, like, really accepting and looking at who we are and what are our foibles. And yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's where addictions come from, right? Like, I
Yeah.
know I used to drink more than I should, for sure, for a long time. And it was because I just didn't want to be with the real me, because I thought I didn't like it. And it wasn't that I didn't like it. I just didn't like these stories the ego had created about it. And I didn't like some of the actions I had taken,
Exactly.
but I wasn't a bad person.
No, I know. It's like a puppet, or the shadow puppet, right? We have this idea of who
Yeah.
we are and what a monster we are. And when you actually just turn and look at it and face it, you realize you're not. You're not even remotely as horrible as you thought you were, you know?
No,
Yeah.
like, I mean, at the end of the day, at the very core, we're all just love, right? And not necessarily romantic love, but just this beautiful, unconditional, non-judgmental love. And, you know, like, for all y'all who are married, that unconditional love, that's for your in-laws, right? You don't have to like them to love them, right? You know, it's just like, cool, I love you from over here. That's a joke, right? Not a joke, maybe. But, you know, we need to have that type of love for ourselves too, because I can't give what I don't have. And, like, you know, self-love takes so many different forms. I mean, just saying nice things to yourself, you know, walking in nature, journaling, just eating good things, drinking water, getting a massage. Like, man, if I truly love myself, would I allow myself to continue to think this?
Mhm.
And then letting go of those parts that aren't you. And
Yeah.
do all that, you'll be enlightened and life will be great. So,
Right. And
right.
then, yeah. Yeah.
It's just that easy.
Oh, I know. I know. It's so fascinating how many layers there is to every lesson. Like self-love, there's the taking care of you physically, but then there's so many different emotional layers. Like, how are you talking to yourself, and what
Yeah.
is underneath the things that you're saying to yourself, and are you judging yourself for judging yourself for judging yourself, you know?
Yeah. Or if you're judging other people, because really your
Yeah.
subconscious just hears you talking to yourself anyways. So it's just another form of like self deprecation when you're like, hey, they do this and it's bad, right? Like, And that's so wild too. And like,
Mm.
most of the experts, quote unquote experts, agree that like 90% of the day is run by the subconscious. And it's like, around 90% based in negative. And so that's a dangerous thing, right? So I definitely want to examine whatever's coming from that, and not to judge, again, just to be with it. And I have a question for you. I want to switch gears for a second, because I just like, you're really phenomenal at creating presence and space, and like use the word witnessing, which, I mean, that's what you do all day. I would sounds like, so of course you're pretty good at it. But I think that's where a lot of people miss in communication, is really learn the art of listening and practicing and evolving that. Like, not waiting for my turn to talk, but actually listening to what this person's saying and being open to a new perspective, right? Which is humility, to
Mhm.
see the good and the value in other people and their ideas. And so how did you get so good at that? Or how would you help someone get better at listening, whether it's listening to themselves or listening to other people, and just being present and being still?
Yeah. I mean, I was not good at it. It's definitely been like 20 years of practice. And first it's connecting with my heart, you know?
Yeah.
Again, can't give bananas unless you've got bananas. So if you're not
Yeah.
connected to
Right.
yourself, you can't connect with others, right? So connecting with my heart and being able to just label the emotions, it's what I do in all my workshops, of just teach people how to label your emotions, because 70% of the time, once you can really, and you can't, sadness, is not, it has to be really specific. Like, is it grief? Is it sorrow? Is it heaviness? Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, once
Yeah, I
you,
think that point. Hold on, I want to jump on that point real quick, because that's
yeah.
so important. For the longest time, like, how do you feel? Like, I feel good. I feel bad, and I'm like, go deeper. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I can't think of one other emotion. And I
Yeah.
have like, I can't remember who created it. I feel like it was a female doctor, but I don't remember her name. It's the emotional wheel, and it has like all these emotions, like all the way out, like joy all the way out, and then
Wow.
power all the way out, like splayed out, and like, because another way of
Perfect.
emotion is like feel in the future we want to feel, right? To bring it in. And so I'm like, okay, how do I want to feel? Like, I want to feel good, right? Like, I think I need to go a
Yeah.
little deeper. Um,
Yeah. Got to be
so
specific.
how do you help people get more specific in their labeling?
Oh, I mean, practice. Some of this stuff, it's just elbow grease, isn't it? I
Sure.
have a list, a handout of different emotions, and
Yeah.
then just have them. Okay, what do you feel today? Name 5 different emotions, and just practice
Yeah.
doing that. And
Can I say good twice? Like, I
no,
feel good,
no.
good, good, bad, and bad.
I mean, it's a great start. It's a really great start.
Yeah.
At least you know the difference between like feeling good, but do you feel
Yeah.
light? Do you feel mischievous? Do you feel, yeah.
Hey, that's a good word, mischievous.
Uh,
Like, yeah, I'm up to something.
exactly. You
Okay,
strike
I'm
me as
sorry.
someone like this. Yeah.
You saw me twisting my mustache over here while you're talking, gave it away. Um, okay, I cut you off in the middle of your explanation. So
Yeah.
if you can remember where I cut you off.
No, it was just to say that once you can label that emotion, like really specifically, 70% of the time it will then evaporate. It's it's
Ooh,
magic. It's so bizarre. I don't know why it happens. I would love to know why it happens. But yeah, it's really it I think it relates back to that witnessing. Your emotions want to be witnessed. And once they feel seen, then they're fine and they can go on their merry way, you know?
yeah. I saw like a metaphor for that of like, it's like it's like a flame on an oil candle, and it's just burning away the oil, which is the emotion or the energy behind it, and awareness is the flame. And I
Hmm.
thought that was pretty helpful,
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard
because
that.
yeah, it's like, I don't need to do anything. I just need to be aware, which is, doing something. But I think so many people think it's like, I gotta like split some atoms, I gotta like solve pie. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, just be present.
Well, that actually makes it worse because emotions are kind of like little children. And if you don't give them any attention, they'll just get louder and louder and louder and then have this temper tantrum, right? So, oftentimes, especially with uncomfortable emotions, yeah, we're just like, oh, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to think about that. And sometimes you need to wallow. Like I've assigned that as a homework of I want you to wear black. I want you to just like be miserable for the next week. Feel sorry for yourself, because we don't let ourselves do that. And then it can't burn out, as you say, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, when you do that, when you're able to just be with whatever the emotion is, especially if it's something negative, it's it's like losing the teeth, right? It's like, it's not so bad.
Exactly.
Like, it's not what I thought it was. And like little kids, that's so funny because it's like, if you ignore them, right? Can't ignore them. They're going to keep showing up. And then if you tell them to stop or go away, or like you know, put them in timeout, they just come back stronger, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, all right, cool. I'll just go over here and do some push-ups and get stronger for my next appearance. And yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and really,
right.
They just wanted to show you that they drew an airplane, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
or
their perception of an airplane, at least. Right?
Like, exactly.
I'm not judging kids. My airplanes don't look like airplanes either. So we're in the same boat.
I draw stick people. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, me as well. We went to the same art teacher. All right, let's bring this thing in for a landing. What's something cool you're reading right now?
Ooh, I am really studying the 4 Agreements all over again.
Ooh, yeah. You want to rattle off the 4 Agreements really quick for us?
Oh, goodness. Oh, no, you're going to put me under pressure. Don't take things personally. Always try your best. Yeah, exactly. It's a good one. It's a really good one. Always try your best. Oh, goodness. I can't
remember it. That's such a good book. Don Miguel Ruiz is the author. Go read it yourself.
Yeah, I did. They have these workshops where you can go down to Mexico City, and Teotihuacan is the pyramids just outside. Yeah. And it's just a 4-day retreat. So I did that for New Year's, and it was just so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Ooh, that's really cool. I bet that was pretty magical. Yeah, he's pretty connected for sure. Yeah. I love his work. It's really beautiful.
He is love embodied. Yeah,
for sure. All right, last question. Where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, thanks. My Instagram, Jennifer Van Wyck, and my website, vanwyckconsulting.com.
Ooh, very cool. Well, thanks for taking the time out of your important work to come and share with us. I appreciate getting to spend a little time basking in the glow of your greatness.
So. Kevin, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And it's really wonderful to connect with you and hear your crazy stories of the crazy things you do. My goodness.
And I feel like that's the kettle calling the pot black over here, because you're living in a war zone, saving lives through humanitarian work. And I'm running a race in hot weather, which there's
I don't know. I'm on the computer a lot, let me tell you. Yeah. But yeah,
that's crazy enough too. Oh, well, I appreciate you very much. Thanks for what you're doing over there. You're awesome.
Thank you. And great to connect with you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks. Bye, everybody.
Alrighty, you guys. Thanks for making it through to the end of the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with us. Really grateful to have amazing listeners like you. Thank you guys again for listening. We love you, and we'll see you next time inside the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Kepple.